This girl was happily eating sausages with her two best friends when suddenly a boy riding a bicycle passed by and hit her, causing the sausage to fall to the ground. When the girl was angry and wanted to scold the boy, her best friend next to her came forward to greet him first. The best friend knew that this boy was Joon-hyung, a very famous athlete in the swimming department. While Joon-hyung was shy and didn't know how to respond to this girl's best friend, the girl standing there was upset about losing her sausage. Joon-hyung noticed that, so he quickly apologized and left, but he accidentally dropped his handkerchief, and coincidentally the girl picked it up. The two of them had no idea that their fate would begin here. Bok-joo is an excellent weightlifter. At only 21 years old, she won the National Weightlifting Championship. She is also a member of the weightlifting team of the National Sports University. However, not all weightlifters are welcomed here. They don't have the good looks of the gymnastics department or the swimming department, so the weightlifting department at school is often looked down upon. Only when everyone need to move heavy objects do people remember them. Joon-hyung is a famous athlete in the swimming department. He once broke the Korean swimming record, but the first time he participated in a national competition, he was disqualified for a foul start. From then on, every time before a competition, Joon-hyung's head hurt terribly. His vision became blurry, which caused him to panic. That day, Bok-joo and her friends were called by the gymnastics department. After they moved the chairs into the gym, they were ridiculed by the gymnastics department. Although Bok-joo was very angry and wanted to teach these people a lesson, Bok-joo still endured it so as not to affect her teammates. She could only leave with her anger. Bok-joo was depressed, so her best friend comforted her so that she cheered up a bit. Unexpectedly, while she was happily eating sausages, she was hit by Joon-hyung on his bicycle. Bok-joo's best friend, Nan-hee, who was crazy about boys, recognized Joon-hyung, a famous swimmer, at first glance. Nan-hee immediately became shy and asked Joon-hyung if he liked Messi. Nan-hee's point of view is to proactively attack men's interests and find common topics to talk about. But Bok-joo had no interest in Joon-hyung at all. All she felt was anger because Joon-hyung dropped her sausages. Joon-hyung thought Bok-joo looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. After Joon-hyung left, Bok-joo picked up Joon-hyung's yellow handkerchief. That night, the gymnastics department discovered that the clothes were missing from the laundry room. They suspected that someone from the weightlifting department had taken it. The two departments had been at odds for a long time. Not only did they have disputes over territory and sports, but last year, a member of the gymnastics department stole a student's hard-earned boyfriend from the weightlifting team. That eventually led to that student having to drop out of school. The two departments had reached a climax, but in fact, the person who stole the clothes was someone else. A pervert secretly hid in the laundry room and waited until everyone left before sneaking out the underwear from the washing machine. Not long after, Bok-joo discovered that her lucky t-shirt was missing. It was her competition uniform. Bok-joo worried and suspected that someone from the gymnastics department was looking for malicious revenge, so she went to the gymnastics department to argue, but the gymnastics department did not admit to stealing the clothes. Thus, a conflict broke out between the two sides. Because there was no evidence, nothing could be done about the gymnastics department. Bok-joo was in a bad mood, so she and her friends went to the roof to secretly drink beer to relieve their stress. After drinking, they went downstairs. In order to avoid being discovered, they hid in the laundry room, but accidentally discovered the perverted clothes thief hiding there. The pervert turned around and ran away, so they hurriedly chased after him. At the same time, Joon-hyung, under the relentless pursuit of his roommate, reluctantly agreed to go with his friend to the internet cafe, open overnight. The two people dressed in black clung to the vines from the balcony. They had just gone downstairs when the pervert ran past. Before Joon-hyung could understand what was happening, he was restrained from behind by Bok-joo. She thought he was a pervert. Joon-hyung's roommate saw that the situation was not good and hurriedly returned to the dormitory. Joon-hyung was thus considered a pervert and was caught. But the teacher knew that Joon-hyung was not that kind of person. Bok-joo also had no evidence, so in the end, Joon-hyung only received a little physical punishment. But Bok-joo thought Joon-hyung was a pervert. Otherwise, why would a tall man like him carry a yellow handkerchief with him? Only then did Joon-hyung know that the handkerchief that he considered his life was picked up by Bok-joo. This time, the two of them had a conflict. What was even more coincidental was that the famous athlete in the gymnastics department was Shi-ho. She made a mistake in the national representative selection exam. In the end, she lost her selection qualification and had no choice but to return to school. Shi-ho was Joon-hyung's ex-girlfriend. Because the dormitory was full, she was assigned to Bok-joo's dormitory. One day, Joon-hyung went to the wishing fountain to pick up coins as usual. Just as he was happily turning around to leave, he saw Bok-joo staring at him. Bok-joo's expression was the expression of thinking Joon-hyung was a pervert. Now Joon-hyung couldn't explain any more clearly. After that, every time they met, Bok-joo asked him to return her lucky t-shirt. Joon-hyung asked her to return the handkerchief. The two of them argued endlessly every time they met. Until one time, when the weightlifting department was dragged away to do some errands, they accidentally discovered that the staff at the recording studio was wearing the underwear of a female student of the gymnastics department. Only then did the truth come to light. The staff member was taken away by the police. All the clothes were returned to their owners. Bok-joo looked at the lost t-shirt that had returned, but her mood was very complicated. It turned out that she had really blamed Joon-hyung wrongly. Bok-joo felt ashamed inside. To To express her apology, she washed and ironed the handkerchief herself and brought it to the swimming pool to return it to Joon-hyung. Bok-joo sincerely apologized to Joon-hyung and even returned the clean handkerchief. Joon-hyung snatched the handkerchief and smelled it. It no longer had the familiar scent, so he angrily criticized her for washing his handkerchief. Bok-joo was kind-hearted, but she was scolded, so she was very angry. During the argument, she accidentally fell into the swimming pool. Bok-joo kept struggling in the water. In the end, Joon-hyung couldn't bear to see her like that, so he jumped in to save her. The moment Joon-hyung hugged Bok-joo, he looked at her chubby cheeks. Memories immediately flooded back. At the elementary school sports festival, Joon-hyung weekly participated in the relay race. Not only did he drop the baton, he also ran in the opposite direction. After Joon-hyung returned to class, he was laughed at by his classmates. Joon-hyung was cleaning the window. In order to avoid being hit by a friend with a broom, he accidentally fell from the window. At this time, Bok-joo passing by and catch him from falling. The cake in Bok-joo's mouth sprayed straight into Joon-hyung's face. The two smiled sweetly. The moment Joon-hyung saved Bok-joo from the swimming pool, he recognized her. Seeing an old friend made Joon-hyung extremely happy, but Bok-joo was not so happy because Joon-hyung kept calling Bok-joo's childhood nickname Fat, making her panic and run away. After the two recognized each other, every time Joon-hyung met Bok-joo, he kept calling Bok-joo Fat from afar. Bok-joo felt extremely uncomfortable. Even when eating, she avoided Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung called her fat in front of everyone. Because he was afraid that she would eat too little, he even gave her Yakult to drink. Bok-joo was extremely embarrassed and asked Joon-hyung not to call her by that name again. Didn't expect Joon-hyung to become so shameless now. He didn't care about Bok-joo's words. Joon-hyung also didn't know why he couldn't help but tease her. Maybe it was because every time he saw her, he would feel happy. One time, Bok-joo helped her family's fried chicken shop deliver food. After meeting, she found out that the person who ordered it was Joon-hyung. Bok-joo ran all the way here and was very tired. Joon-hyung wanted her to rest a bit, so he deliberately said he wanted to try the taste first before deciding whether to pay or not. He told Bok-joo to sit next to him for a while. Unexpectedly, Bok-joo directly said it was free as an apology for the handkerchief incident, but Joon-hyung felt guilty inside. Based on the delivery address, he went to Bok-joo's fried chicken shop. Coincidentally, he saw Bok-joo using her money to pay for their meal this time. After that, Joon-hyung brought his friends to the restaurant specifically once. He also took the opportunity to pay the amount that Bok-joo paid last time. While eating, Joon-hyung looks at the medals Bok-joo won displayed in the restaurant. Joon-hyung seemed to have witnessed all of Bok-joo's growing up experiences. Back at school, Joon-hyung met Shiho, who came to find him. The other party wanted to reconcile with him and be together as normal friends. Joon-hyung nodded in agreement, but his indifferent attitude made Shiho extremely angry. She still expected this relationship in her heart. The operating expenses of the weightlifting department were cut, so Coach Sang-chul shouldered all the pressure by himself. When the team needed to go out for practice, he found a small bus to move around, but a small bus could not hold the whole team. In the end, Sang-chul still changed to a more spacious car. After the training ended, Sang-chul wanted to pretend to cheat and ignore the planned party, but looking at the eager eyes of the children, Sang-chul could not bear it. In the end, he used his own money to take the children to a party at a barbecue restaurant. The children ate and slept well, not knowing the difficult situation Sang-chul was facing. They had a hearty meal at the barbecue restaurant. Coach Sung-eun was very concerned about Sang-chul's situation. Sang-chul devoted himself to the weightlifting team because he had promised others. His wife divorced him. After the divorce, his wife used his alimony money to live a luxurious life. In order to save money, Sang-chul usually lived at school and rarely came home. Even Sung-eun couldn't stand it anymore. She told him to go home, sleep, and take care of his health more. Don't use his money to treat the children to meals in the future. She would think of a way to solve the weightlifting team's financial problem. So the next day when it was time for extra meals, Sung-eun brought kimbap and said that she was changing to a new restaurant. But the team members all tasted something wrong. They just thought that the new store's flavor wasn't very good. In the evening, Joon-hyung went to his parents' pharmacy and put on a pitiful face and asked his mother to feed him. He had to go home and wait for his mother to cook. After returning home, he carefully put the handkerchief in the drawer and took out the super collected postcards inside to look at. The signature on top was also his mother. Could it be that Joon-hyung's current mother was his adoptive mother? Joon-hyung also had an older brother who was a doctor named Jae. Jae knew that Joon-hyung had violated the rules of the competition. Guessing that Joon-hyung had a mental illness, Jae was extremely worried about him. After talking with the female doctor at the school, Jae suggested that Joon-hyung should go for treatment. While Joon-hyung was upset about this problem, Bok-joo was also having a headache because of her troublesome father. It turned out that her father had picked up a dressing table somewhere and tricked Bok-joo into saying that he had bought it. Bok-joo was very happy. As a result, a few days later, a picture of the dressing table was posted on a lost notice on the side of the road. Only then did she realize that her father had tricked her again. Bok-joo had always disliked her father's bad habit of picking up things. Now her father was making fun of her again. She talked to her father for a while, then carried the dressing table, preparing to return it. On the way, it started to rain. Bok-joo hugged the dressing table and got caught in the rain. Suddenly, an umbrella appeared above her head. It turned out to be Joon-hyung's older brother. But Bok-joo didn't know Jae. In her eyes, there was a handsome handsome guy with a pleasant voice. This guy shielded her from the water splashed by passing cars, then carefully took her to her destination, treating her like a girl. In the end, he even gave her his umbrella. On the way back, Bok-joo heard her own heartbeat. Perhaps she was moved by Jae. At this time, she received a phone call from the weightlifting department. It turned out that after the team members ate kimbap, they all got food poisoning and had to be hospitalized. Someone could only admit that she was the one who wrapped the kimbap. She wanted to save money, so she bought food that was about to expire. Sungwon was extremely regretful. The team members also learned about the department's financial problems. Everyone was a sensible child. They proactively suggested cutting down on snacks and reducing the number of gatherings. The coaches were deeply moved, but looking at the pitiful and sensible children, the coaches felt heartbroken. Bok-joo heard that her father, who was already in poor health, had fallen ill, so she hurriedly returned home. When she got home, she found that her father was still safe and sound. It turned out that her father had bought her a new dressing table. Moreover, he especially wanted to show off to Bok-joo, so he colluded with her uncle to trick her into going home. Bok-joo didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but seeing the brand new table, she was still very touched. Bok-joo left the house but met Jae on the way. She followed and saw Jae enter a hospital. Only then did she learn that he was a doctor. Bok-joo felt a little self-conscious. She was really too inferior to this man. At this moment, Bok-joo suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Jae was a doctor at a weight loss hospital, so she could go to the weight loss hospital to take the opportunity to get to know Jae. Bok-joo immediately went to the hospital. After Jae saw Bok-joo, he immediately recognized her as the girl from the other day. After Bok-joo sat down, the first question was whether he liked Messi. This question made Jae stunned and confused. In order to pursue Jae, Bok-joo decided to receive weight loss treatment at the hospital, but after seeing the price of the treatment, all her hopes immediately disappeared. Bok-joo's entire savings were not enough for the treatment, so Bok-joo went home to ask her father for money. But when she saw that her father was still to use the old motorbike, she did not dare to ask anymore. If she did not have money from home, Bok-joo could only think of another solution. The school was going to hold a mountain climbing competition. The first place winner would receive a prize of 3 million won. Bok-joo's eyes immediately lit up. She immediately signed up for the competition. The next day the competition started. Bok-joo immediately rushed out. Unexpectedly, halfway there, she met Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung was immediately happy when he saw her coming. He kept talking to her side. Bok-joo was exhausted both physically and mentally, so she was in no mood to pay attention to him. She only wanted to climb up. Joon-hyung followed behind and teased her, but accidentally pushed Bok-joo down. Then when Bok-joo limped to the top of the mountain, many students had already reached the top. All effort fell into vain, making Bok-joo very disappointed. She kept blaming Joon-hyung. She told him not to follow her anymore. Joon-hyung immediately felt hurt. On the other side, Joon-hyung's ex-girlfriend returned to the training team. Her recent condition was very bad. The coach suggested that she attend a special training course in Russia during the holiday, but going to Russia would cost a lot of money. Shiho was extremely confused. When she got home, she heard her parents arguing over her training expenses. Her family's financial situation really didn't allow it. Shiho didn't say anything and decided to give up the opportunity. Feeling disheartened, she contacted Joon-hyung. She hopes that in her next life she can be born into a rich family, so that she won't have to worry about money and can pursue her dreams without worrying about anything. After saying that, Shiho accidentally slipped. Joon-hyung quickly reached out to help her. His hand was still as warm as before. Shiho held her hand tightly and refused to let go. Joon-hyung quietly withdrew his hand. At the same time, Bok-joo was hanging out with her friends. Nan-hee drank too much and went crazy. She accidentally spilled wine on the man at the next table. When the man heard that they were weightlifting students, he laughed out loud and mocked them for not looking like women at all and looking stronger than men. The girls suffered a terrible humiliation, so the two sides had a dispute. After Joon-hyung said goodbye to Shiho, he also came here to eat. He saw this chaotic scene. He thought about how he was hurt by Bok-joo's words this morning. Joon-hyung didn't go up, but after Bok-joo left, the men still kept talking about her. They even went too far. Their words were full of insults and contempt for Bok-joo. Joon-hyung couldn't stand it anymore, so he rushed up to fight the men. After beating the other side up, Joon-hyung turned around and ran away. Bok-joo and her friends hadn't gone far when they saw Joon-hyung running out. Joon-hyung pulled Bok-joo and ran away. After escaping, Bok-joo suspected that Joon-hyung wanted to vent his anger, so he went up to fight. Of course, Joon-hyung didn't admit it. Bok-joo looked at Joon-hyung and found that he was very different from the timid boy in her memory. Joon-hyung put his arm around Bok-joo's shoulder and showed off his charm now. Seeing Joon-hyung's unserious attitude, Bok-joo was momentarily speechless. After what they had gone through, the two of them stopped fighting. On the other side, Shiho passed by a sports shoe store. When Shiho and Joon-hyung had not yet broken up, Shiho wanted to buy a pair of shoes for Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung knew that Shiho's family was having a hard time, so he politely refused. At that time, the two of them looked so cute and happy. Shiho's beautiful memories came back. Not long after, Joon-hyung returned to the dormitory and found an anonymous package. Inside was a pair of sports shoes. Joon-hyung guessed that it was a gift from Shiho. Now Joon-hyung did not want to give Shiho hope anymore. He went to find Shiho to return the shoes. The next day, Shiho told her teacher that she decided not to go to Russia for training. Shiho's mother also knew about this. Shiho's mother did not understand Shiho's decision. Shiho felt extremely extremely wronged. She understood that her family could not bear this expense. Shiho felt very upset, so she took the returned sneakers and rushed straight into the boys' dormitory. She didn't say anything and gave them to Joon-hyung. She didn't want Joon-hyung to pity her like the others. Bok-joo's secret feelings finally had a response. Jae sometimes remembered this interesting girl, Bok-joo. He sent Bok-joo a message saying that compared to Messi, he liked Ronaldo better. Bok-joo was extremely happy when she received the message. She ran out of the house and met Jae at the intersection. She couldn't believe it, so she lightly touched Jae. She couldn't think of anything else. Seeing Jae again made Bok-joo feel so happy. After borrowing money everywhere, Bok-joo finally had enough money to go to Jae's hospital to register for treatment. Jae felt happier when he saw this cheerful and lively girl. He took the initiative to shake Bok-joo's hand and hoped that they would have a good cooperation in the future. Bok-joo looked at her calloused hands after lifting weights and felt self-conscious, so she just reached out to clap Jae's hand. After leaving the hospital, Bok-joo was extremely excited. She even rarely tried a hair clip on her head. It was the first time Bok-joo wore such a feminine hair accessory. The salesgirl complimented that Bok-joo looked more feminine when wearing this accessory. Upon hearing that, Bok-joo bought it without hesitation. Bok-joo was inspired. She thought to herself that she might as well make some handicrafts. Next time she returned the umbrella to Jae, she would give it to him. Bok-joo wanted to ask a boy's opinion when she happened to meet Joon-hyung. She quickly used the excuse that it was for a friend and asked Joon-hyung if she should make a handmade bracelet as a gift for a boy. Unexpectedly, Joon-hyung quickly stopped her. Because things that you make with your own hands have great meaning, they will make people feel heavy. It turns out that's how it is. Bok-joo immediately came to her senses. She decided to write a thank you note instead of a gift. She was immersed in love. Bok-joo was immediately recognized by her roommate Shiho that Bok-joo had someone she liked. The next day, Bok-joo dressed up and wore a newly bought hair clip to the hospital to return the umbrella. Jae asked about Bok-joo's major. Bok-joo didn't want to reveal that she was a member of the weightlifting team. Just then, Bok-joo saw the cello sculpture on the desk. She immediately said that her major was cello. Unexpectedly, Jae had a hobby of classical music. Bok-joo was questioned to the point that she was almost exposed. At the same time, Joon-hyung started receiving psychological treatment. Every time before the match, his heart would beat very fast. After that, he could no longer hear any sound. This condition has also appeared several times during practice. The doctor diagnosed it as panic disorder. The doctor asked him what happened the first time this symptom occurred, but Joon-hyung pretended not to know because he didn't want to mention it. Jae came to pick Joon-hyung up. Joon-hyung discovered that the umbrella was put in a very delicate paper bag. At first glance, he knew it was Bok-joo's work. Joon-hyung lent Jae the umbrella. Jae said that he lent it to a girl who was studying cello. The girl put it in the bag and brought it back to him. Joon-hyung couldn't help but chat for a while. After returning to the dorm, Joon-hyung discovered that there was another letter in the bag. It said, "Thank you, doctor. That day, what you lent me wasn't an umbrella, but your warm heart." Joon-hyung sighed. It seemed like another innocent girl was seduced. The next day, Bok-joo and Joon-hyung met at the cafeteria. Joon-hyung started teasing Bok-joo again. He said that she had become thinner recently. Bok-joo was speechless. While the two were joking around, Shiho saw them. This was not the first time Shiho saw the two of them being so intimate. Shiho deliberately took Bok-joo's arm and introduced her to Joon-hyung, that she and Bok-joo were now roommates. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward, but the awkwardness was still ahead. Shiho sat down to eat with everyone as if no one was around. While eating, she even picked up food for Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung didn't want the atmosphere between the two to affect everyone, so he found an excuse to leave. Shiho hurriedly chased after him. She wanted to date Joon-hyung again. This proposal made Joon-hyung feel helpless. It was obvious that Shiho was the one who broke up from the beginning. Shiho admitted that she regretted it. At that time, she was facing an important match and was in a very bad state. Shiho was criticized by the teacher in front of everyone. Joon-hyung also lost the competition and wanted to find Shiho for some comfort. Shiho was still worried about her, so she suggested breaking up. When Joon-hyung needed help the most, Shiho had left him, and now she acted like nothing happened and wanted to get back together. How could Joon-hyung agree? After returning to the dorm, Shiho went to find Bok-joo. Shiho deliberately mentioned that she wanted to get back together with Joon-hyung. Shiho hoped to get Bok-joo's blessing. On the other side, Park, a senior in the weightlifting club, often didn't come back to his room at night. He was questioned by his peers and had to face the pressure of graduating soon. His roommates suspected that he had found a way out and secretly hid the news and didn't want to tell anyone. They argued like that. In the end, the entire weightlifting department was punished by the coach. The punishment lasted until the evening before ending. Sang-chul and Sung-eun prepared a barbecue dinner for them outside. The two of them told the kids, compared to risking their lives to win medals and then getting injured, they hoped that everyone would truly love the sport of weightlifting and practice. Just lifting weights could make them feel happy and willingly put in their time and effort. This was what the coach wanted to see. Sang-chul knew that some of the seniors were in the middle of life's choices and were confused and worried about the future. But Sang-chul didn't want the players to become extreme, because life doesn't come to an end, everything can change. At night, Senior Park came to ask for leave. Sang-chul accepted it without asking for a reason. He believed in his students. This was the way to truly support them. Actually, Senior Park had a reason for asking for leave. leave. His wife had just given birth. Every night he comes to visit his wife. His family is under heavy financial pressure, so Park has a lot of difficulties. Sang-chul is also very worried about the children's future. If they don't win a medal in sports, the road ahead will be very difficult. Sang-chul plans to let Park and Bok-joo increase their weight class. This will increase their chances of winning a medal. It's easy to say, but gaining weight is much harder than losing weight. Recently, Bok-joo has been going to the hospital to lose weight without telling her friends. Her friends thought that Bok-joo was delivering food home, so they took the initiative to go to Bok-joo's house to help. Unexpectedly, Bok-joo was not at home. Her father and uncle thought she was at school. After Bok-joo returned to the dormitory, her friends immediately pressed her with questions. Bok-joo was worried and didn't know how to explain. Seeing her awkward appearance, her friends guessed that Bok-joo's hemorrhoids had relapsed, so Bok-joo secretly went to the hospital. Bok-joo also did not expect things to turn out this way, so she could only shyly admit it to hide the truth. As the treatment progressed, Bok-joo's weight gradually decreased, but before could be happy, Bok-joo heard a familiar voice calling her fat in the hospital. When she turned around, Bok-joo saw Joon-hyung coming to find his brother. Joon-hyung saw Bok-joo wearing a weight loss outfit. He laughed so hard that he almost couldn't breathe. Just then, Jae came over. Seeing that her secret was about to be revealed, Bok-joo immediately pretended to look like she was meeting her childhood friend Joon-hyung for the first time. Jae also introduced Bok-joo as the girl who learned the cello. Joon-hyung was extremely surprised. He felt Bok-joo pinching his back. He tried to hold back his laughter to help her lie. He even put his arm around Bok-joo's shoulder and declared that she was his good friend. Joon-hyung suggested to his brother that playing the cello requires the strength of a weightlifter. Seeing Joon-hyung's delighted expression, Bok-joo could only try to smile. Having Bok-joo's weakness, Joon-hyung laughed at her the whole way. He guessed that she was bewitched by her brother. Bok-joo asked him not to tell anyone, but how could a tease like Joon-hyung obediently listen? Having this weakness in his hands, Joon-hyung started to make Bok-joo do things for him. He asked her to help him peel fruits and get juice. Bok-joo was extremely angry, but could only suppress her anger. Joon-hyung met Bok-joo, who was going to the hospital for a consultation, so he followed her. It was just time for dinner. Jae took the two to a restaurant for dinner. Taking advantage of this opportunity during the meal, Joon-hyung repeatedly hinted that Bok-joo was a weightlifter. He even raised Bok-joo's hand and shouted loudly that she had succeeded in the 130-kilogram weight class. Bok-joo was extremely angry, but could only reluctantly say that she didn't like to exercise. Jae was beside her wondering, because she had said that she liked messy before. Hearing this, Joon-hyung remembered that Bok-joo's best friend had said the same thing, so he burst out laughing again. Bok-joo couldn't bear it anymore and went to Joon-hyung alone to negotiate. Seeing Joon-hyung's harmless appearance, Bok-joo was extremely angry. She didn't want to be teased by Joon-hyung for a long time, so she suggested that she wanted to solve this problem once and for all. She asked Joon-hyung to give her a condition. Joon-hyung said that he would think about it and then tell her. On the other hand, Shiho still didn't want to give up on Joon-hyung. She waited for Joon-hyung on the side of the road and invited him to eat his favorite pizza, but Joon-hyung firmly told Shiho that he had his own life. He advised her not to do anything useless anymore. Shiho didn't give up. She kept texting Joon-hyung, but Joon-hyung didn't reply. The next day is the sports festival. In order to escape the rice bag carrying competition, Joon-hyung sneaked into the internet cafe to play games. Before the rice bag carrying competition started, the swimming club discovered that Joon-hyung had disappeared. They went to Joon-hyung's roommate and asked him to find Joon-hyung immediately. Joon-hyung's roommate was worried about how to explain to the coach. Bok-joo accidentally found out about this and took it to heart. She immediately dialed Joon-hyung's phone number and suggested that she would participate in the competition in his place. After that, the two of them would no longer owe each other anything, and Joon-hyung was not allowed to threaten her anymore. After saying that, Bok-joo hung up the phone without waiting for Joon-hyung to reply. The rice bag carrying competition began. The last winning team in previous years were all weightlifters. This year, if the weightlifting department wanted to continue this glory, they would have to look at this rice bag carrying competition. The members of the weightlifting team were all full of confidence. When the game started, Joon-hyung still did not appear. Instead, Bok-joo from the weightlifting department entered. She was Joon-hyung's assistant. Bok-joo fought to the end. Bok-joo's incredible strength and will to not be bothered by Joon-hyung helped the swimming department win. The final grand prize went to the swimming department. For the first time, the weightlifting department lost the championship position. Bok-joo became the sinner of the whole team and was criticized by everyone. Joon-hyung heard the news and rushed over. He was worried that Bok-joo would be scolded by the members of the weightlifting department. When he arrived at the weightlifting department, he immediately pulled Bok-joo away. Unexpectedly, Bok-joo spoke first. She asked him to keep her secret from Jae. Seeing Bok-joo lower her honor, Joon-hyung felt sorry for her. Bok-joo simply had a one-sided love for Jae and did not receive any response. But her attitude was so self-conscious. At the same time, Bok-joo tried her best for Joon-hyung, which made her friends misunderstand. Everyone thought that the person she liked was Joon-hyung. Shiho also misunderstood that Bok-joo liked Joon-hyung. In order to help Bok-joo, Joon-hyung bought 2 concert tickets. One was given to Bok-joo, and the other was given to Jae. It was considered a gift for Bok-joo. Bok-joo rarely wore dresses to concerts. She pretended to meet Jae by chance. After the concert, concert, Jae drove her home. Bok-joo suddenly felt lucky. From the time her father picked up the dressing table until she met Jae by chance, everything was so coincidental and beautiful. On the other hand, Joon-hyung came for psychological counseling. This time, he confessed his secret to the doctor. It turned out that after his mother remarried, his mother went to Canada when he was only 10 years old. Since then, Joon-hyung stayed at his uncle's house and called his uncle and aunt his parents. So Jae was actually his cousin. Joon-hyung started swimming at the age of 11. For an insecure and lonely person like him, the swimming pool was like his mother's embrace. It was a warm place to forget about his mother. After his mother went abroad, she often sent postcards and gifts. So Joon-hyung always felt like he was the same as other children. Until one day, he accidentally found a lot of blank postcards in the house and realized that all along, his aunt had been writing letters to him on behalf of his mother. Coincidentally, Joon-hyung had a competition that day. Joon-hyung first showed signs of panic during that competition. Leaving the psychologist's house, Joon-hyung accidentally met Bok-joo after finishing their date. Seeing Bok-joo wearing a skirt, Joon-hyung couldn't help but laugh loudly and didn't dare to look at her. After Jae left, Bok-joo went to the subway to change into comfortable clothes and went out, but was stopped by Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung mocked Bok-joo's outfit that she had been wearing for half a day. Bok-joo was about to go crazy when a car drove past a puddle. Joon-hyung pulled Bok-joo in front of him. Bok-joo was splashed with water. Bok-joo didn't expect Joon-hyung to do that. She chased after Joon-hyung. Even though she was soaked, Bok-joo was still in a good mood. Thinking back to today, Bok-joo felt like Cinderella. Bok-joo caught a cold. She smiled wickedly, hugged Joon-hyung's head, and sneezed in his face. Of course, she would pass on a cold to him when something as good as a cold came to her. The two coaches were planning to upgrade Bok-joo and Park to 2 levels. Park agreed, but as for Bok-joo, the two coaches hadn't told her about it yet. The two coaches went to Bok-joo's father first. Bok-joo's father was Sang-chul Sr. After careful consideration, Bok-joo's father finally agreed. The two coaches informed Bok-joo of this. Bok-joo felt discouraged. Going up 2 levels meant gaining weight and then turning that weight into muscle. This was not an easy task, especially since Bok-joo was in the crucial stage of losing weight. Bok-joo thought for a long time and finally agreed. The coach personally monitored her daily meals. She ate at school and then ran to the hospital. After receiving treatment at the hospital, she returned to school. Going back and forth like that, her weight increased and then decreased. Sol-moon couldn't understand why Bok-joo's weight kept decreasing like that. Jae didn't understand why Bok-joo's weight kept increasing. As for Shiho, every time she wasn't satisfied with her training, she couldn't help but eat like crazy. In the end, she had to go to the infirmary because of a stomachache. The female doctor was very concerned about Shiho because not only did she look weak, but her mental state also didn't seem to be very good. On the other side, Joon-hyung has a cold. He recently prepared to participate in a small competition that only beginners can participate in. Everyone doesn't understand. Actually, it's because Joon-hyung wants to overcome his psychological trauma. Shiho always follows him. She comes uninvited over and over again. Then she is heartlessly rejected by him over and over again. But Shiho doesn't want to give up Joon-hyung. Compared to Shiho eating too much, Bok-joo has to face the difficult problem of being fed too much by everyone. While her close friends are feeding Bok-joo, Nan-hee accidentally discovers Bok-joo's text message asking her to go to the hospital to lose weight. Bok-joo can only tell Joon-hyung that she has a crush on him. She also takes Nan-hee to the hospital to watch Jae from afar. Jae is handsome, mature, and attractive. Nan-hee approves of Bok-joo's relationship. For her best friend's happiness, Nan-hee took on the task of advising Bok-joo on what clothes to wear. Moreover, Nan-hee also helped Bok-joo hide it from her best friend Sonoke in the group. Nan-hee even secretly helped Bok-joo eat less food. Joon-hyung started practicing for the competition. Shiho was very concerned about his bad cold. She quietly asked Joon-hyung's roommate to bring ginger tea to Joon-hyung and didn't even let her best friend say that she brought it. The next day, Bok-joo was on her way to the hospital when she met Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung told her to cheer him on. Bok-joo didn't cheer him on, but instead scolded him. Later, Bok-joo learned from Jae that Joon-hyung always seemed confident but was actually very weak-hearted. 2 years ago, he was eliminated from the national competition because he jumped first. This left a psychological trauma in Joon-hyung's heart. His usual training results are always excellent. He can even represent his country in competitions, but he always makes mistakes in competitions. It was very difficult to make up his mind to compete this time. After saying that, Bok-joo blamed herself for saying bad things to Joon-hyung. Then, when she passed by the fountain, she prayed for Joon-hyung and hoped that he would compete well. Before the competition started, Joon-hyung started to have ringing in his ears and felt dizzy. He couldn't hear any sound. He counted down in his heart and missed the whistle. Therefore, he started a little slower than all the other players. In the end, he only won 4th place. But Joon-hyung was in a very good mood. At least he had taken the first step, not losing the right to compete because he jumped first. Bok-joo had been following the results of the competition. She found out that Joon-hyung didn't even get a high rank. Bok-joo asked to meet him to comfort him. The two met in front of the fountain. Joon-hyung once said that he heard that there was a lucky toad in the fountain. After making a wish to the toad, he would get a gold medal. So Bok-joo folded an ugly toad and gave it to him, hoping that it would bring him luck. Shiho also witnessed the competition at the competition site. After it ended, she hugged a hot pot of soup and waited for Joon-hyung, but he didn't return. When she returned to school, school, Shiho accidentally saw Bok-joo and Joon-hyung arguing. She angrily threw the soup into the dustbin. On the other hand, in order to help his daughter gain weight, Bok-joo's father bought abalone to supplement Bok-joo's health. As a result, Bok-joo brought Joon-hyung home. This was the first time Bok-joo brought a man home. Bok-joo said that she owed Joon-hyung a favor, so she wanted to treat him to abalone. Her father reluctantly took out a plate. Seeing Joon-hyung eating one after another, Bok-joo's father became more and more dissatisfied. He guessed that his daughter was about to be taken away by Joon-hyung. He was extremely angry. After eating their fill, the two returned to school together. Bok-joo said a lot of words of encouragement to Joon-hyung. The two argued with each other again. Joon-hyung's mood gradually improved. It turned out that Bok-joo also had this cute side. Shiho searched Bok-joo's things in the dormitory and discovered that she was undergoing weight loss therapy. The next day, while jogging, Joon-hyung saw Shiho entering the weightlifting department. Soon, both the coach and Bok-joo's father knew that Bok-joo was secretly losing weight. Bok-joo's father immediately became angry. It turned out that Shiho had secretly put the weight loss hospital album into the weightlifting department the night before. The more she thought about it, the more she regretted it. When she wanted to go get it back, she saw that Sung-hun had seen it. Knowing that Bok-joo was losing weight, the coach informed Bok-joo's father in advance. Bok-joo's father scolded her. Everyone couldn't understand why Bok-joo did that. As a weightlifter, maintaining weight is very important. Bok-joo was physically punished, so her whole body ached. Seeing Bok-joo's painful appearance, Shiho also felt very sad. She hated herself for being so irrational because of jealousy. That day was Jae's birthday. Joon-hyung immediately sent intelligence to Bok-joo. That day, Bok-joo was supposed to go to the hospital, but when Jae got off work, couldn't wait for Bok-joo. Bok-joo missed Jae's birthday. It turned out that Bok-joo's father was sick, so he had to go to the hospital regularly for dialysis. He used his refusal to go to the hospital for dialysis to force Bok-joo to listen. Bok-joo was not allowed to go to the hospital to lose weight anymore. Bok-joo was very helpless and advised her father to go for treatment. The more Bok-joo's father thought about it, the angrier he got and wanted to go to the hospital to lose weight to talk things out. Bok-joo's angry father suddenly fainted. Only after rushing him to the hospital did he stabilize. After this, Bok-joo will definitely not be able to go to the hospital to lose weight again. She specially bought a birthday present and prepared to go to the hospital to confess everything, then confessed to Jae. In the end, she still didn't have the courage to confess and just left the present in front of Jae's car. Bok-joo secretly ran to the hospital to lose weight. As soon as she got back to school, Bok-joo was forced to ask by Sung-un. Bok-joo refused to say. Sung-un started to punish Bok-joo. Nan-hee really couldn't stand it anymore. She told Sung-un everything. Nan-hee said that Bok-joo didn't go to the hospital to lose weight, but because she liked the doctor there. Today, Bok-joo secretly ran there just to give him a birthday present. Sung-un was filled with emotions after hearing this. When she was a young girl, everyone had such a pure love. When Sung-un was young, she even ran away from home because of a male student. Sung-un told Bok-joo her story. She told Bok-joo that everything would be okay. Even though it was extremely painful now, as long as you could overcome it, she would meet many men who would love you in the future. Bok-joo felt relieved and cried bitterly. Joon-hyung heard Bok-joo's story. He still couldn't contact her and was very worried. When he passed by the stadium, he saw Bok-joo crying in Sung-un's arms. Joon-hyung hid in the grass by the roadside and threw out a sausage, successfully attracting Bok-joo. Seeing Bok-joo so depressed, Joon-hyung took her to eat something delicious. He gently fed her grilled meat and kept comforting her. Under Joon-hyung's comfort, Bok-joo's mood also improved. She started to eat a lot. After eating, the two went to a nightclub to play. Bok-joo let herself go and partied all night, gradually recovering her spirits. Through this unrequited love, she realized that she was also a girl and would also be moved by men. Joon-hyung patted her head and kept coaxing her to be happy. He even made an appointment to go out together next time. Bok-joo felt that Joon-hyung was a little different today than before. She finally admitted that Joon-hyung and his brother were a little similar, even though it was just a little. Bok-joo's father was upset about Bok-joo's weight loss. The uncle said a few words to help Bok-joo, that it was normal for Bok-joo to like to dress up when she was young to lose weight. Normally, Bok-joo only liked to wear sportswear because her hands were full of calluses because of training. She didn't look like a girl at all. The uncle also felt sorry for her. Her father naturally understood these principles. It was only because life was difficult that he wanted to force Bok-joo to at least win a gold medal. Otherwise, Bok-joo would regret it for the rest of her life like him. Even though he said that, Bok-joo's father still softened and called Bok-joo home. He bought a lipstick for his daughter. Finally, the two of them made up. On the other side, Joon-hyung suddenly remembered that he had seen Shiho enter the weightlifting department. He thought that maybe she had put Bok-joo's weight loss notebook in there. Joon-hyung immediately went to find Shiho. It just so happened that Shiho had a competition today. She performed excellently and won the prize. When she returned to school, she received a call from Joon-hyung. Shiho happily ran over, but was greeted by a series of questions from him. Shiho admitted that she had left the notebook in the weightlifting department because she didn't like Bok-joo and Joon-hyung being too close. She thought Bok-joo lost weight just to please Joon-hyung. Shiho was driven crazy by her jealousy and possessiveness. Joon-hyung was extremely angry. Shiho's actions caused too much damage to Bok-joo. He told Shiho that he and Bok-joo had no other father-daughter relationship. Bok-joo liked someone else, but Shiho saw Joon-hyung's feelings for Bok-joo. When she returned to the dormitory, she accidentally heard Bok-joo talking to Joon-hyung on the phone. Shiho grabbed the phone and hung up. Shiho could no longer hold back anger. Shiho questioned Bok-joo why she still seduced Joon-hyung when she had someone she liked. Bok-joo was stunned by the question. Then, Shiho herself admitted that she was the one who revealed Shiho's notebook. Shiho did this just to warn Bok-joo. The two had a big argument. Bok-joo asked Shiho to apologize. Shiho refused. Bok-joo didn't want to pay attention to Shiho anymore, so she hugged her pillow and went to her best friend's room to sleep. Joon-hyung called Bok-joo up to the rooftop. The two sat on an abandoned bed to talk. Bok-joo told Joon-hyung to keep his distance from her in the future. She didn't want Joon-hyung's ex-girlfriend to see her as an enemy again. Joon-hyung apologized to her. Bok-joo had a lot of things to worry about, so she didn't care much. At this time, the patrol teacher came over. Joon-hyung hurriedly hugged Bok-joo to avoid the teacher. The two of them hugged each other like that. Joon-hyung hugged Bok-joo and didn't let her leave. He insisted on watching the stars together. The two of them were in close contact. Joon-hyung felt that Bok-joo wasn't bad either. As for Shiho, after winning the prize from the competition, the coach's attitude towards her had also changed significantly. Shiho took the drink from the coach with a smile on her face. But when she turned around, she threw it in the trash. Shiho learned from her sister that her parents were about to divorce. Shiho went to find her mother to ask. She understood that it must be because of financial problems in the family that led to her parents choosing to divorce. Shiho wanted to drop out of school to earn money, but her mother firmly disagreed. Shiho's mother had long considered Shiho her life, so Shiho's mother couldn't let Shiho do things own way. Shiho retorted with a couple of sentences, but was slapped by her mother. She turned around and left without saying anything. At the same time, Joon-hyung received psychological counseling. He mentioned that in the past years, he had never looked for his biological mother even once. On the other hand, he felt that his biological mother had a reason for abandoning him. On the other hand, he felt guilty towards his parents, but the doctor advised him to face the problem to completely resolve his psychological problems. While Joon-hyung was dealing with his psychological problems, Bok-joo was also troubled recently. She had not gone to the hospital for a long time, so Jae was very worried about her. Bok-joo lied that she was going to study abroad soon, so she couldn't go to the hospital anymore. After hanging up the phone, Bok-joo couldn't help but cry. She cried for her unfinished first love. After calming down, Bok-joo called Joon-hyung. Joon-hyung noticed that Bok-joo was in a bad mood, so he called her out to relax. He also promised to take her to the movies. After all, Bok-joo's weight loss was discovered, so Joon-hyung was also responsible. Christmas was coming, so Joon-hyung's mother sent postcards and gifts as promised. Joon-hyung didn't say anything but cooperated with parents in acting. He wore the new sneakers his mother bought. After returning to his room, Joon-hyung felt depressed and remembered what the doctor had told him. He was hesitating whether to go find his mother or not. At this time, he received a phone call. Shiho suddenly fainted. Joon-hyung rushed over. After Shiho woke up, Joon-hyung took her home. At this time, Joon-hyung remembered the date Bok-joo went to the movies. He was about to leave when Shiho suddenly hugged him. Joon-hyung pushed her away and turned to look for Bok-joo. When the movie ended, Joon-hyung still hadn't arrived. She poured all her anger and resentment into the game. She scolded Joon-hyung for not keeping his word. Joon-hyung had just arrived at the cinema when he heard Bok-joo scolding him to go die. Bok-joo was very angry. The consequences were very serious, so Joon-hyung followed her and kept apologizing. In the end, he spent a lot of money to treat Bok-joo to a delicious meal to appease her. After returning to the dormitory, Bok-joo's mood improved and she started to make trouble with Joon-hyung again. Shiho saw this scene. In her anger, she deleted all the photos with Joon-hyung and cried bitterly. Joon-hyung's aunt made some side dishes and asked Jae to give some to the female doctor at school. She also told him to invite the girl to their house to play. It turned out that Jae and the female doctor were good friends. The last time, the female doctor also attended Joon-hyung's birthday party. The female doctor made Jae's parents very satisfied. Jae's mother wanted to bring the two together. Jae realized that his mother had an ulterior motive but couldn't do anything about it. Joon-hyung went to the hospital to give Jae something, but heard the secretary mention that Jae went to school to find a female doctor. Joon-hyung thought about just seeing Bok-joo with a sprained waist walking towards the school infirmary. What if the two met? Then Bok-joo's lie would be broken. He immediately felt uneasy. He hurriedly ran back to school and told his roommate to go find Bok-joo. His roommate rushed into the infirmary. Bok-joo heard the news and was preparing to run away, but it was too late. She hurriedly hid inside with Joon-hyung's roommate. Then Joon-hyung also hurriedly ran over to pull his brother and the female doctor away. Only after they left was the danger dispelled. Bok-joo breathed a sigh of relief. On the way back, Bok-joo accidentally met Jae, who turned back to get his phone. The two met again on the narrow road. Jae saw Bok-joo wearing a weightlifting uniform. Joon-hyung rushed over to help Bok-joo lie and cover it up, but Bok-joo didn't want to continue lying like that. She admitted to Jae that she was actually a weightlifting student. The cello and studying abroad were both lies. Bok-joo finally confessed everything but couldn't be happy at all. She could only turn sadness and anger into strength. She expressed all her emotions during training. Joon-hyung helped Bok-joo explain to his brother. Bok-joo wanted to lose weight because she liked someone, but she was afraid that the other person would not accept her if they knew she was a weightlifting team member. her. That's why she hid her identity. But Joon-hyung didn't say that the person Bok-joo liked was Jae. After explaining, Joon-hyung was dragged away by his roommate to participate in the matchmaking. The girls were all interested in Joon-hyung's handsome appearance, but Joon-hyung was only thinking about Bok-joo. Just then, Bok-joo called to meet him. Bok-joo regretted it. If she had known this would happen, she shouldn't have lied in the first place. Seeing her depressed appearance, Joon-hyung took her to the game room to relax. Bok-joo played games like crazy. Joon-hyung sat on the side in a daze. Then the two went to drink soju. Bok-joo was in a bad mood, so she drank cup after cup. After a while, she got drunk and started talking nonsense. She said that it was all Joon-hyung's fault. If Joon-hyung wasn't Jae's younger brother, so many things wouldn't have happened. So Joon-hyung had to take responsibility for the current situation. Bok-joo fainted as soon as she finished speaking. This made Joon-hyung extremely miserable. He used all his strength to carry Bok-joo on his shoulder back home. He even used a shopping cart to transport Bok-joo. After returning home, Bok-joo kept saying that Joon-hyung had to take responsibility for her. So Joon-hyung was interrogated by Bok-joo's father and uncle. Joon-hyung repeatedly affirmed that he and Bok-joo were just classmates and that nothing had happened that required him to take responsibility. Bok-joo's father understood that Joon-hyung was criticizing Bok-joo, so he yelled at him with reproaches. The uncle, who had long considered Joon-hyung a family member, kept calling him was nephew-in-law. Then the uncle gave Joon-hyung money to call a taxi and invited Joon-hyung to come to the store to drink together. The next day, Bok-joo sobered up and accidentally met Jae and the female doctor. Jae had just told the female doctor about Bok-joo's weight loss. The two were still wondering if the guy Bok-joo liked was Joon-hyung. The female doctor wanted to help Bok-joo fulfill her wish, so pulled Bok-joo out to eat with her. She even called Joon-hyung over. The female doctor was very close to Jae. When the two were together, they looked very cute. Seeing this scene, Bok-joo felt even more depressed. Plus, the female doctor kept pairing Bok-joo with Joon-hyung. She said Joon-hyung and Bok-joo looked good together. After finishing the meal, Joon-hyung took Bok-joo to the beach to relax. The two had fun playing on the beach. When they were tired from playing, they lay down on the sand. Bok-joo said that if she could do it again, she would still lie. Although she was proud of being a weightlifter, as a girl, she still didn't want the person she liked to see her bulging veins when lifting weights, her fierce appearance and red face. Bok-joo couldn't help but sigh. She herself didn't have any secrets from Joon-hyung. For the sake of fairness, Joon-hyung also wanted to tell Bok-joo the secrets hidden deep in his heart. The first secret was that when they were in elementary school, there were always some candies on Bok-joo's desk. Joon-hyung secretly put them there. He did that to repay Bok-joo for saving his life. Moreover, Joon-hyung liked Bok-joo, who was always lively, cheerful, and popular. The second secret is that Joon-hyung is not the biological son of his current parents. Actually, Jae is his cousin. His mother abandoned him and flew to Canada. Joon-hyung used this method to comfort Bok-joo. There are always pains and secrets in life. Time will heal everything. Hearing Joon-hyung's words of comfort, Bok-joo's mood immediately improved. Very quickly, the day of Bok-joo's competition arrived. After Jae heard that Bok-joo was competing, he brought a bouquet of flowers to watch Bok-joo compete. Bok-joo was extremely nervous because of Jae's appearance, but she still suppressed the pressure and successfully completed the competition. Jae was in the audience clapping and cheering for her. When Bok-joo walked off the stage, she couldn't hold back her tears, because what she feared most was being seen by the person she liked while lifting weights. But in the end, she was still seen. Joon-hyung saw Bok-joo hiding in the gym, secretly wiping away her tears. At this time, Jae came to congratulate her. Joon-hyung quickly pulled his brother away. Joon-hyung told Jae that the person Bok-joo liked was Jae. Bok-joo didn't like Jae seeing her lifting weights. Now Bok-joo was getting a lot of hurt. Joon-hyung felt sorry for Bok-joo, so he was very angry. This time, Bok-joo and her senior park both won the gold medal, as expected. The weightlifting team achieved very high results and thus got sponsorship. The sponsor also wanted to sign a contract with Bok-joo. Bok-joo was even on the news, but Bok-joo couldn't be happy. She was always in a state of depression. On the other side, Jae remembered the things he had done for her since he met Bok-joo. It seemed like he had unintentionally given her a lot of attention. Perhaps it was this attention that made her misunderstand. Jae felt very guilty, so he asked Bok-joo out to apologize. Bok-joo pretended to be strong and told Jae not to pay attention to this. Because her feelings come quickly and go quickly, it will be fine soon. Bok-joo felt even more embarrassed by Jae's apology. She knew that Joon-hyung must have said it. She asked Joon-hyung why he brought it up. This could have been left alone. Moreover, a failed one-sided love was also a very humiliating thing. But Jae came to apologize, which put Bok-joo in an awkward situation. Because of this, the two had their first big argument. Then Joon-hyung went to see his brother. As soon as he arrived, he got straight to the point. Joon-hyung said that sometimes Jae's politeness and concern would only hurt others. Just like when Joon-hyung was young, Jae always tolerated Joon-hyung unconditionally and never got angry. But in Joon-hyung's opinion, this was the opposite of drawing a clear line, always reminding Joon-hyung that he was not Jae's real brother. Only then did Jae understand Joon-hyung's thoughts. When Jae got home, he saw the place where the two brothers grew up together and was filled with emotions. The next day, Joon-hyung's pharmacy had to be renovated, so the two brothers went to help. The atmosphere was a bit awkward, but they finally took the opportunity to make up. The two talked openly and apologized to each other. Jae said said that he would start learning how to get angry with Joon-hyung. He also said that Bok-joo must be a very special friend to Joon-hyung, which is why Joon-hyung cared about Bok-joo so much. Joon-hyung was even angry with him because of her, unless Joon-hyung liked her. Joon-hyung was exposed by Jae, so he immediately found an excuse to leave. On the other side, when Shiho practiced, there was a move that she couldn't do well. Plus, her parents got divorced, and the house was sold, so Shiho was in a depressed mood. She thought to herself that if it weren't for this gymnastics career, the family wouldn't have turned out like this. Everything was not going well for Shiho. By chance, she met Joon-hyung Sr. hanging out with his friends. Shiho wanted to be away from school, so she took the initiative to ask him to hang out with her. From then on, Shiho and her senior started dating. No matter how much Shiho played around, her senior would give in to her. Because her senior had liked Shiho since she first entered school. Seeing her senior's caring and attentive attitude, Shiho's heart was moved. Instead of always clinging to Joon-hyung who didn't like her, she should find someone who liked her to lean on. As for Sung-yoon, Senior Park didn't come home all night. His wife went to school to look for him. It turned out that Senior Park had a conflict with a driver and ended up fighting and going to the police station. Only then did Sung-yoon find out that Senior Park was married and had a child. After learning about his hardships in life, Sung-won took the initiative to offer to lend him money to compensate. In fact, Sung-won's life wasn't rich. She lent a portion of the group's operating expenses to Park, and she would pay them back later. But not long after, the headquarters discovered that Sung-won had embezzled the operating expenses. Sung-won quickly admitted it, but she refused to explain the specific reason. She only said it was for personal reasons. Park overheard Sang-chul talking to someone about Sung-won embezzling public funds, and the amount of money matched the compensation Sung-won lent him. He immediately understood everything. He intended to go to the headquarters to clarify the situation, but was stopped by Sung-won. It was true that she had taken the money. Even if she clarified the situation, nothing would change. Park could only sigh helplessly. In the end, Sung-won was fired. From beginning to end, she did not tell the truth and bore it all alone. Park felt very sad, so he went to Sang-chul and told the whole truth. Sang-chul was in a difficult situation. If he told the headquarters about the situation, Park would be punished, but if he didn't tell them, Sung-won would have to leave. Sang-chul didn't know what to do. He went to Bok-joo's father to relieve his worries. After hearing this, the uncle looked at Sung-won with admiration. What a righteous woman. Sung-won packed up her things and prepared to leave. All the students were waiting outside to see her off. Bok-joo cried and held her back. Sung-won was also very sad, but things had come to this point, so she could only turn around and leave. The next day, Bok-joo had originally scheduled a meeting with the sponsor, but she suddenly disappeared. Joon-hyung had told himself that he wouldn't bother with Bok-joo anymore, but after hearing that she had disappeared, he couldn't help but go out to look for her. From early morning to late at night, he finally found Bok-joo. As soon as Joon-hyung arrived, he asked why she always made others worry and depressed. While he was talking, Bok-joo's eyes were red. She asked Joon-hyung what she should do. Joon-hyung didn't say anything. He hugged her heartbrokenly. Late at night, Bok-joo returned home in a daze and confessed to her father that she didn't want to lift weights. Before, no matter how hard or tired she was, she had never thought of giving up. But recently, for the first time, she had an aversion to lifting weights. Her father talked to Sang-chul about this issue. The coach felt that Bok-joo had entered the stage of exhaustion, so he gave Bok-joo some time to rest and relax. After a few days of thinking, Bok-joo's father finally decided to let go so that Bok-joo could be comfortable. He didn't interfere in her life anymore. No matter what happened, even if weightlifting was extremely important, it was all Bok-joo's decision. If she didn't want to practice, then she shouldn't force herself anymore. On the other side, Joon-hyung was thinking about why he always had strange feelings for Bok-joo. He recalled the things between him and her. Joon-hyung finally understood his feelings. He had fallen in love with Bok-joo. Bok-joo said goodbye to her friends and prepared to rest for a while. Joon-hyung took her out to relax. He gave Bok-joo a lot of encouragement and care. Joon-hyung told Bok-joo not to run too far and to stay within his range. She had to contact him more and get well soon. Bok-joo made a wish list and prepared to complete each one during the vacation. Bok-joo wanted to learn piano. To pay for her tuition, Bok-joo found a part-time job delivering goods in a warehouse. Jae asked Joon-hyung about Bok-joo's situation. Joon-hyung was a little dissatisfied with his brother's concern. Joon-hyung hoped that his brother would not care about Bok-joo anymore in the future to avoid unnecessary trouble. When Joon-hyung mentioned Bok-joo, his eyes lit up. Jae realized at first glance that Joon-hyung liked Bok-joo. Joon-hyung didn't deny it. He also found it hard to believe because Bok-joo was not his type at all. But love has no reason. Joon-hyung had prepared to always be by Bok-joo's side and go through all the hardships of life with her. At night, Joon-hyung missed Bok-joo, so he went to the warehouse to find her. He happened to see Bok-joo laughing and talking with a male colleague. Bok-joo even called the male colleague Oppa. Joon-hyung got angry and shouted loudly and quickly separated the two. He told Bok-joo to be wary of all the guys around her. That man was untrustworthy at first sight. Bok-joo agreed to please him. Then she talked about her dream. She wanted to use her part-time job money to learn piano. At that time, she would play the piano at Joon-hyung's wedding. Joon-hyung mentioned it clearly. He hoped that the person standing next to him was Bok-joo, but Bok-joo did not realize the meaning of this sentence. After saying goodbye to Bok-joo, Joon-hyung returned to school. He learned that recently people started spreading rumors about ghosts in the school. It was said that 10 years ago, a student had her medal revoked for using doping. After that, the girl left this world by herself. Maybe that was the ghost of that student who had not left. Because someone in the weightlifting department went to the bathroom at night and saw a barefoot ghost. It immediately scared everyone. Recently, Joon-hyung has been looking for Bok-joo. People misunderstood that the two were dating. One day, Joon-hyung went to see Bok-joo again. He even went to the warehouse to help her with work. Bok-joo told Joon-hyung to go first. She did not want to cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Joon-hyung looked at Bok-joo and said that they did not misunderstand. She was a very special friend to him. But Bok-joo didn't understand anything. She didn't expect Joon-hyung to directly kiss her and express his feelings to her. Bok-joo didn't understand why it was her. This couldn't be explained clearly, so Joon-hyung couldn't explain it either. Liking someone doesn't need a reason. Moreover, thinking carefully, Joon-hyung had liked Bok-joo for a long time, since they were very young, so Bok-joo was his first love. Bok-joo also admitted that Joon-hyung was very good. He was handsome and worth relying on, but she had never considered Joon-hyung as someone of the opposite sex. She only considered him as a friend. Joon-hyung suggested starting from today, try dating for a month, experience a little to see if he was a good boyfriend or not. If he wasn't, it wouldn't be too late for her to refuse. After he finished speaking, he didn't wait for her to refuse before turning around and leaving first. Joon-hyung took Bok-joo home. The two of them, one in front and one behind, were extremely awkward. Bok-joo's best friend called and told her to come back quickly. She took the opportunity to leave but accidentally dropped her wallet. Joon-hyung accidentally picked it up. Joon-hyung found Bok-joo's wish list inside. Her last wish was to find a boyfriend, to drink a drink with 2 straws together, to put her hand in her boyfriend's pocket and walk together. Joon-hyung was extremely happy to have this important information. Bok-joo was called back to the dormitory. It turned out that Nan-hee had just seen a woman in white in the hallway. Nan-hee was so scared that she kept screaming. Bok-joo stood by the side and didn't care. Bok-joo's mind was filled with Joon-hyung's kiss. Bok-joo was so embarrassed that her face turned red. That night, when Bok-joo went out to get water, she also heard a strange sound. She saw a woman dressed in white with long hair sitting in front of the refrigerator, eating like a ghost. The woman turned around. It was Shiho. The next day, Bok-joo asked Shiho if she remembered what happened yesterday. Shiho explained that she actually had a bad habit of eating a lot in her sleep, but the ghost thing had nothing to do with her. Shiho tried to act calm on the outside, but was actually very scared on the inside. She quickly looked up the side effects of sleeping pills. Sleeping pills cause memory loss and even sleepwalking. The school had a special day off, so Joon-hyung went to the fried chicken restaurant to find Bok-joo. He wanted to have a private date with her at the amusement park. This was also one of Bok-joo's wishes on the list. Unexpectedly, Bok-joo intentionally called her best friend. Bok-joo's best friend made an appointment to meet Joon-hyung's roommate. It ended up being a fun gathering for a group of 5 people. After thinking for a while, Joon-hyung finally found a chance to be alone with Bok-joo and do what he wanted to do with her. Joon-hyung did as Bok-joo wrote on her list. They used 2 straws to drink the same drink. When the two of them got close to each other, Bok-joo was filled with emotions. Her cheeks were flushed. Later, when Joon-hyung was watching the fireworks, he deliberately took Bok-joo's hand and put it in his pocket. This was also Bok-joo's wish. Even though Bok-joo pushed him away time and time again, her heart involuntarily started to move closer to him. Looking at Joon-hyung's sincere eyes, Bok-joo was momentarily at a loss. The vacation finally ended. Her best friend Seon-ok didn't return to the team. It was said that her family didn't let her come. Bok-joo went to look for Seon-ok. Before leaving, Bok-joo remembered that today was the day her father went for dialysis. She told her father to come to the hospital on time. Bok-joo then went to Seon-ok's hotel. She was lifting weights in front of the mirror. Her family's financial situation was not good, so her parents felt that no matter what, she would not be able to become a national representative athlete. They did not want to waste money on her studies anymore, so they told her to drop out of school and come back to help the family. Actually, Seon-ok had always admired Bok-joo. Bok-joo was talented in weightlifting, and her family supported her. Unlike Seon-ok, who had nothing, Seon-ok liked weightlifting because it was a sport where hard work would yield results. When she won an award in high school, it was also the result of her constant practice. Actually, she knew very well that she had no talent in this field. She could only rely on her constant efforts to get it. Bok-joo was about to comfort her when Seon-ok was called to work by her mother. At the same time, her father had just finished dialysis. He was about to leave when he suddenly had a nosebleed and fainted. Bok-joo returned from Seon-ok's house. Joon-hyung specially bought flowers and went to the station to pick her up. Bok-joo had just left the station when she received the news that her father had an accident. She ran and cried, not knowing what to do. Joon-hyung hurriedly took her to the hospital. On the other hand, Jae and the female doctor attended the class reunion. Their classmates teased them and told them to get married. The female doctor deliberately asked Jae if they should get married, but Jae avoided the question. This time, Jae's first love also came. Now the person beside Jae's first love was a successful man. He was full of anger at Jae, constantly bringing up the past and also disrespecting Jae's first love. Jae couldn't control his anger and went to punch this guy. Then the female doctor asked Jae if he hadn't forgotten his first love. Otherwise, a person with a good personality like Jae wouldn't have done such a thoughtless act. This time, the female doctor didn't hide her her emotions anymore. She finally mustered up the courage to ask Jae when he could see her. The sudden confession left Jae at a loss. He had never thought of this aspect. The female doctor told him that she had been by his side for 10 years. This was not something based on friendship alone. After confirming Jae's thoughts, the female doctor leisurely left. She knew it was time to say goodbye to the past 10 years of love. When Bok-joo returned home to pack up her father's belongings, she saw that her father had bought a lot of insurance. The beneficiaries were her aunt and uncle. Bok-joo couldn't hold back her tears. She called her father to apologize for her ignorance all this time. Her father also felt that he had done something wrong to her. This phone call resolved all the conflicts between father and daughter. The next day, Bok-joo took the initiative to return to the team. She ended her hesitation and was ready to return to training. Sang-chul and Bok-joo's father were very relieved to hear this news. Her father went through a checkup and found that there was nothing wrong with his body, but he was forced to quickly undergo a kidney transplant. At the same time, Shiho had to stop taking sleeping pills on the doctor's advice. This led to her mental state getting worse. During practice, she made many unnecessary mistakes. The coach had to reconsider whether to let her compete. Because she wanted to participate in the competition, Shiho took sleeping pills. Bok-joo called Joon-hyung out. Recently, Bok-joo has been thinking about Joon-hyung unconsciously. After returning to the training team, the first person she thought of was Joon-hyung. Bok-joo realized that she also liked him. She wanted to tell Joon-hyung her decision as soon as possible. She said that Joon-hyung had passed the probationary period. Then she confessed to Joon-hyung that she liked him. The two looked at each other, unable to hide their joy. Slowly, there was a kiss in the thick snow. The two finally started dating as boyfriend and girlfriend. Joon-hyung was cautious. Seeing that Bok-joo was still wearing the hair clip she bought to meet Jae, Joon-hyung pulled Bok-joo to buy a new one. Shiho took sleeping pills the night before, so she woke up the next day feeling sluggish. She felt unwell and fainted. Bok-joo returned to the dormitory and saw Shiho fainted. Seeing the sleeping pills, Bok-joo rushed her to the hospital. Luckily, Shiho didn't take much. The doctor determined that she didn't have the tendency to leave this world and do something stupid, but the incident still spread throughout the school. Joon-hyung also found out about this. Seeing Shiho's missed calls on his phone, he realized that it was the time when he and Bok-joo were dating. Joon-hyung felt very guilty. He went to the hospital to visit Shiho. After this incident, Shiho felt relieved about many things. When Bok-joo visited Shiho, seeing Joon-hyung always by Shiho's side, taking good care of her, Bok-joo couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. Joon-hyung noticed that she was acting a little strange, so he went to ask why. Bok-joo refused to tell the truth, which made Joon-hyung very upset. He took Bok-joo to eat at a roadside restaurant. Before they could even start eating, Joon-hyung received a call from Shiho. He quickly went to the side to answer the phone. Bok-joo angrily ate a lot. When Joon-hyung finished the call, Bok-joo angrily left. All the way, she kept scolding Joon-hyung for being ignorant. Sang-chul went everywhere asking for help from his connections to help Someon get her job back, but he heard that Someon had been transferred. In his anger, he went on strike and quit his job. After Sang-chul went on strike, the weightlifting department was constantly gossiping. Finally, Senior Park stood up and told everyone that all of this was because of him. Knowing the truth, everyone did not blame Senior Park, but actively thought of a solution. Everyone decided to go on a hunger strike to make things difficult for the headquarters. But for weightlifting, hunger strikes are not easy. The aroma of food continuously wafted from the cafeteria, testing everyone's self-control. Everyone overcame all difficulties and resisted temptation. Seon-ok also returned to the team when she heard about what happened recently. She hugged her close friends and cried bitterly. After the female doctor confessed, Jae thought for a long time. Finally, he realized that he had done something wrong to her. He went to find the female doctor to apologize. For the past 10 years, he had gotten used to having her by his side. He had taken everything for granted. Jae suggested that he wanted to date, but this made the female doctor feel awkward. Love is not something that can be given away. She did not need Jae's bestowed love. In the evening, when Joon-hyung was walking, he saw Bok-joo protesting. It was cold outside, making him worried about her. But Bok-joo was angry. She told Joon-hyung not to worry about her. Joon-hyung had a lot to worry about anyway. Joon-hyung didn't understand why Bok-joo was angry. He was irritated by her sarcastic words. Even though he was angry, Joon-hyung was still worried about Bok-joo. Hearing that it was snowing outside, Joon-hyung was worried that she was cold, so he went to help her put on a heating pad. He also put on a coat and a scarf for her. After doing these things, he left without saying anything. His teammates asked Bok-joo, "Who is this?" Bok-joo said she was just a friend of hers. The protest continued on the second day. Everyone was about to lose their patience. Some people fainted. At this time, someone heard a rumor that the new coach in the weightlifting department was someone who got in through connections with the leaders. Never practiced weightlifting before. After everyone heard this, they became even angrier. The battle to regain the official coaching position officially reached its peak. They also fought against corruption in the school. Everyone started beating gongs and drums and protesting at school. Not long after, the protest was successful. The school leadership gave in and agreed to reinstate Someon. To celebrate Someon's reinstatement and San-ok's return to the team, everyone gathered at Bok-joo's fried chicken restaurant. After the incident ended, Bok-joo and Joon-hyung finally met. Joon-hyung asked her why she was angry. Originally, Bok-joo didn't want to say it because it would make her look mean, but she still couldn't help it. She blamed Joon-hyung for asking about and taking care of his ex-girlfriend in front of her. Only then did Joon-hyung realize that Bok-joo was jealous. Finally, the two of them resolved their misunderstanding. Bok-joo's jealous appearance made Joon-hyung feel very cute. He hugged Bok-joo and refused to let go. He couldn't help but kiss her one after another. Finally, Bok-joo and Joon-hyung made up. Shiho was also discharged from the hospital. She saw the intimate appearance of the two. Although Bok-joo didn't admit it, Shiho understood at a glance. Now Shiho had let go of this relationship. Finally, she could peacefully bless the two of them. At this time, Bok-joo's father came to school to deliver food. He happened to see the two of them laughing and joking, but Bok-joo was wrapped up so tightly that her father didn't recognize her. He couldn't help but sigh. He didn't know whose child it was to be in love in such a crowded campus. Her father, even her close friends, didn't recognize Bok-joo. Bok-joo didn't want her friends to know that she and Joon-hyung were in love, so she acted like she didn't know Joon-hyung in front of them. She even accidentally pushed Joon-hyung to the ground. Joon-hyung was angry and didn't want to have a secret relationship. Bok-joo could only act cutesy to deal with him, so Joon-hyung could only reluctantly agree. Another day, Bok-joo applied Nanhee's special mask and immediately got a pimple on her face, which looked very funny. Bok-joo felt embarrassed and didn't dare to meet Joon-hyung, so she lied that she had a cold and it was inconvenient to meet. Joon-hyung was worried about Bok-joo. He asked his aunt to prepare a lot of cold medicine and brought it to Bok-joo. Bok-joo was sitting in front of the mirror, looking at her pimple worriedly. The next second, she saw Joon-hyung rolling in from the balcony. It turned out that Bok-joo was avoiding him because of her pimple. Joon-hyung found Bok-joo more and more adorable. After saying that, he went to visit the room. He was about to open the wardrobe when Bok-joo stopped him. The two of them accidentally fell onto the bed. When the atmosphere was awkward, the close friends returned to the room. Joon-hyung quickly hid under the bed and moved to a corner where they couldn't see. Then she hid in the closet. At this time, Shiho returned. She opened the closet and was startled. Joon-hyung signaled her not to say anything. Shiho smiled and helped Bok-joo chase her friends away. Joon-hyung was finally saved. The three of them went to the rooftop together. It was the first time Shiho knew that there was such a beautiful place in the school. After letting go of many obsessions, her mood was much better. She could also be happier with the two of them. Because Bok-joo hid the fact that she and Joon-hyung were in love, Joon-hyung's roommate didn't know about their relationship, so he forced Joon-hyung to join the matchmaking. A person in the weight training department saw it and told Bok-joo about it. Bok-joo angrily dragged her two close friends to that cafe. First, she watched from the corner for a while. Then she sent a message to Joon-hyung telling him to quickly resolve this matter. Otherwise, he would surely die. Joon-hyung was extremely terrified when he saw the message. After looking around, he found Bok-joo looking at him. Joon-hyung was extremely scared. He wanted to find a reason to run away, but his roommates and the female students stopped him from leaving. The female students even started touching Joon-hyung's clothes. Finally, Bok-joo couldn't look anymore. She used her identity as Joon-hyung's girlfriend to come over. At this time, everyone was extremely surprised. Joon-hyung and Bok-joo were again subjected to strict questioning from their close friends. The two close friends felt very hurt because Bok-joo hid it. If that was the case, then Bok-joo's boyfriend had to pay the price by inviting them to dinner and singing. Joon-hyung's wallet and spirit were both severely damaged. On the contrary, Joon-hyung's roommate surprisingly got along with Bok-joo's two close friends. Bok-joo and Joon-hyung started dating publicly. Bok-joo was very self-conscious. She felt like she was making Joon-hyung lose face, but Joon-hyung didn't pay any attention. He was proud of Bok-joo. Wherever he went, he bragged to everyone around him that she was his girlfriend. The day of Shiho's competition soon arrived. Bok-joo took her to the fountain to pray. Bok-joo and Joon-hyung went to watch Shiho compete together. Shiho made a mistake, stepping on the line in the first round. But what surprised everyone was that she did not lose any points and easily entered the finals. Only then did Shiho understand what the coach meant when he told her to prepare well for the final round. It turned out that the coach had arranged for her to enter the finals early. Shiho was criticized by the other contestants for bribery. During the final performance, all her past experiences came to mind. The pain of overeating, the difficulty of training with all her strength, the joy of winning a medal filled Shiho with emotions. Perhaps it was time to say goodbye. Shiho stopped in place without taking the strings. Although the match was ruined, Shiho felt much more relieved. Bok-joo and Joon-hyung were also very emotional. One day, they would be like Shiho, welcoming the last match of their career. At that time, would they be as decisive as Shiho? But who can say clearly about the future? Living well in the present is the most important thing. The next day, an unexpected incident happened. Joon-hyung's biological mother suddenly returned to the country. Joon-hyung's mother went to school and happened to meet Bok-joo, so she asked for directions. Bok-joo personally took Joon-hyung's mother to the swimming pool. Joon-hyung also happened to be going out. Bok-joo greeted him. Joon-hyung's mother heard Joon-hyung's name and looked at him with teary eyes. Joon-hyung looked at her for a while before realizing that it was his mother. He couldn't help but cry loudly. They were both a bit shy when they met after many years, but Joon-hyung was still very happy. His mother brought a new pair of shoes as a gift. Even though it didn't fit, Joon-hyung still wore it on his leg. He made an appointment with his mother to meet again tomorrow, but when he went out, he accidentally heard his current parents, who were also his aunt and uncle, talking to Jae. Only then did Joon-hyung learn that his mother's son abroad was sick and needed money. This time his mother returned to borrow money from his aunt and uncle, not to visit him. Joon-hyung was extremely sad. He was angry angry because he had lacked maternal love for so many years. He was also helpless before his aunt and uncle kindness. He told his aunt and uncle that he had known that they had been pretending to be his mother and sending him letters and gifts for the past few years, but he had always pretended not to know and cooperated with them in the drama. His aunt and uncle had also raised him without any complaints. Why should they lend money to that selfish mother? They weren't charitable people. When his aunt heard these words, she couldn't help but slap Joon-hyung. The whole family treated Joon-hyung sincerely and raised him as their own son, but Joon-hyung doubted her sincerity. Joon-hyung ran away from home. No one could contact him. Bok-joo was extremely worried. Later, she learned everything through Jae. After hitting Joon-hyung, the aunt was also very regretful and blamed herself. Their performances these past years must have caused great damage to Joon-hyung. During the time Joon-hyung disappeared, Bok-joo was selected for the national team. She would soon go to intensive training. Reporters came to interview Bok-joo. During the interview, the entire weightlifting department was extremely tense. Sang-chul was even wearing a suit. Bok-joo was not focused during the whole process. She was really worried about Joon-hyung. Halfway through the interview, she ran to look for him. She finally found Joon-hyung at the swimming pool. Joon-hyung was floating motionless on the water like a floating corpse. Bok-joo woke him up. Joon-hyung leaned on her shoulder and cried. After crying a lot, Joon-hyung's mood gradually recovered. He listened to Bok-joo's voice message while he was anxiously looking for him. He finally revealed a smile that had been lost for a long time. Bok-joo comforted him that his biological mother couldn't help but love him. She must have her own reasons. Joon-hyung should understand her. Under Bok-joo's persuasion, Joon-hyung returned home. Bok-joo took him to the pharmacy. Joon-hyung apologized to his aunt. The two hugged each other tightly again. After resolving the misunderstanding with his adoptive parents, the next step was to resolve the misunderstanding with his mother. Joon-hyung went to the airport to see his mother off. He returned the handkerchief that he had kept for so long. He also wanted a photo of his sister. Finally, Joon-hyung showed Bok-joo's photo to his mother. Only then did Joon-hyung's mother know that the girl she asked for directions at school was her son's girlfriend. Bok-joo told Joon-hyung that she had been selected for the national team. She was going to train abroad, so she couldn't leave her room anymore. This also meant that they had to start a long-distance relationship. Joon-hyung was really happy for her. Long-distance relationships weren't a problem. Besides, Joon-hyung had a competition coming up soon. As long as he got first place, he could be selected as a national representative. At that time, they could continue to be together and wouldn't have to endure the pain of separation. Joon-hyung started practicing hard for the competition. Bok-joo helped and supported him a lot. Joon-hyung often made a scene and didn't want to practice. He insisted on Bok-joo hugging and kissing him before he would continue practicing. The two of them joked around non-stop. Soon, the day of the competition arrived. Bok-joo went to the fountain to pray for Joon-hyung. The competition soon began. Bok-joo was at the scene watching him compete. Joon-hyung started a bit slow, but he quickly caught up with his opponent. The situation was very tense. In the end, Joon-hyung finished second with a small margin. Joon-hyung was a little regretful because he didn't get first place, but at least Joon-hyung overcame the psychological pressure. Bok-joo comforted him that there would be another chance next time. Bok-joo went abroad to train and only had time left in the evening. The two couldn't bear to separate. Bok-joo's best friend suddenly called her back to the training room to get her things. Joon-hyung went back with her. The training room was dark again. Joon-hyung looked at Bok-joo with eyes full of affection. He walked over to hug Bok-joo and was about to kiss her when suddenly the lights came on. All the coaches and teammates were present. It turned out that the best friend tricked Bok-joo into coming back to give her a surprise. This time, their secret was completely exposed. Everyone congratulated them. At the same time, Bok-joo's father found a kidney donor, but he did not immediately go to the hospital. He was afraid of distracting Bok-joo. He planned to wait until his daughter went to training before going to the hospital. Finally, it was time to go to training. Bok-joo regretfully took the bus away from her father and Joon-hyung. After Bok-joo went to training, the couple officially started a long-distance relationship. At the same time, Bok-joo often called her father and was concerned about his health. Bok-joo felt that her father's voice seemed a bit off, so she asked Joon-hyung to visit her father for her. Joon-hyung went to Bok-joo's house and found out that the fried chicken shop was closed. He asked his uncle and found out that Bok-joo's father was hospitalized and was preparing for surgery. The day of the surgery happened to be the day Bok-joo competed. Her father hid it from Bok-joo and did not want her to know. He told Joon-hyung not to tell Bok-joo either. The next time Bok-joo found out that Joon-hyung was always mysterious and didn't pick up the phone in time. He picked up the phone but couldn't say much. In fact, Joon-hyung was taking care of Bok-joo's father. The next day, while Bok-joo was practicing, her waist injury relapsed. The coach gave her a day off to return for treatment. After Bok-joo finished treatment, she prepared to go home for a bit. Her father was scared and jumped out of bed after hearing that. Her uncle told Joon-hyung to stall for time. He would quickly take her father home. Joon-hyung stopped Bok-joo, who had just returned home. He didn't say anything and dragged her out to eat. Halfway through, Joon-hyung answered the uncle's phone to report the situation. Joon-hyung hid to the side and secretly answered the phone. His mysterious appearance made Bok-joo suspicious. Bok-joo thought of Joon-hyung's recent series of mysterious actions. Suspicion arose in her heart. She reached out and grabbed Joon-hyung's phone, wanting to see who he was calling. Joon-hyung refused. In the end, the two had a big argument. When Bok-joo got home, she saw her father father and uncle busy at the restaurant. They looked very strange, but Bok-joo couldn't tell what was strange. After the two argued, Joon-hyung couldn't contact Bok-joo. That night, he went to the store to find her. After a period of testing, Bok-joo's father gradually accepted Joon-hyung. He asked Joon-hyung why he liked Bok-joo. Joon-hyung replied that it was because Bok-joo could bring joy to people. She was born with the power to warm people's hearts. Bok-joo's father laughed out loud. He truly accepted this son-in-law. The next morning, her father and uncle saw Bok-joo off. Before Bok-joo left, she accidentally saw a notice at the entrance that the fried chicken shop was closing. Later, she learned from a neighbor that her father was about to have surgery. Bok-joo rushed to the hospital and caught her father and uncle in the act. Bok-joo blamed herself. If only she had discovered her father's abnormality earlier, it would have been good. At the same time, she also realized that she had misunderstood Joon-hyung. Bok-joo apologized to Joon-hyung, but how could Joon-hyung blame Bok-joo? He took Bok-joo back to the training ground and kept encouraging her to try her best. On the day of Bok-joo's official competition, her teammates on the weightlifting team gathered in front of the TV, anxiously watching the match. Her uncle and Joon-hyung were in the hospital watching. Her father's surgery was very successful. When the surgery ended, the competition ended. Bok-joo easily won the gold medal. Everyone cheered. Bok-joo's father, who had just woken up, also showed a satisfied smile. After the match ended, Bok-joo accepted an interview and Joon-hyung also arrived at the scene. Bok-joo rushed into Joon-hyung's arms in front of everyone. Very quickly, 2 years passed. Joon-hyung was chosen as the national representative. On the day of graduation, Sam-chul and his teammates gathered to say goodbye to everyone. Someone gave their farewell speeches and they couldn't help but cry. Then came the climax of the graduation ceremony. The tradition of the weightlifting department was to have the graduates walk up on stage. The team members tried their best to take off their shoes and clothes. The tradition of the swimming club was to throw the graduates into the pool. Joon-hyung and Bok-joo's parents came to the graduation ceremony. Family and friends were there to witness this beautiful moment. After the graduation ceremony, the two walked around the campus. Everywhere, there were memories of them. Their youth was awkward but beautiful. The two promised each other that if Joon-hyung won the gold medal in the next competition, they would get married. That would be the perfect souvenir of their youth. This sweet drama ends here. Thank you for watching and supporting. Goodbye.